Hola personas de YouTube y el Internet. Dan aquí con un blog de nuevo. He regresado de Guatemala. And for those of you who don't speak Spanish, I just said, hello people of YouTube and the Internet. Dan here with a vlog once again. I've returned from Guatemala. Yep, that's right. For those of you who didn't catch my last vlog video, which I recorded just a few days before my J-Term Study Abroad class, then I just got back a few days ago from just that, my January term or J-term study abroad class in Guatemala. Yup. So, needless to say, that was an awesome experience and one that I'm probably not going to forget the rest of my life. And of course, that's the point of that's like one of the things I obviously hope to get out of an experience like that. And of course, as I just said, I did. So I'm basically just going to dedicate most of this vlog, if not all of it, to talking about my experience in Guatemala during that class for you guys. Alright, so as mentioned in my previous vlog, I left for Guatemala January 9th, so that's a little over 4 weeks ago from this coming Thursday. So, yeah, it's so hard to believe how fast time passed now. So, we left on that day. We had a flight out of the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport at a super early time of a little after 5 in the morning, I think. So, yeah. Needless to say, that's probably the earliest I've ever had a flight out to anywhere. So, yeah. And because of that, I really didn't sleep at all that one night because we had to be up so early to get to the airport. So, basically what I just did that night, after watching some Netflix, I believe, what did I watch that night? I'm trying to remember. Oh, you know what? I think it might have been Lilo and Stitch because during those past few days when I was there, I was on a little bit of a Disney binge. Or wait, was it? Yeah, I think it was because I remember. I think the first night I got back, I watched Robin Hood on Netflix, and then I think the night after that I watched Bruce Almighty. So then I think the last movie I watched on Netflix was Lilo and Stitch. So I think I was right about that. So I did that, and then I think basically right after that, I just laid in the couch for a while, took a little bit of a nap, and yeah. Oh, and one of our roommates coming back. Hey, I'm making a vlog.
Oh, nice.
Yep, there you are.
Downstairs, by the way.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I heard about that. I may check that out in a little while. Good stuff. Alright, so now back to what I was talking about. So, basically just that night, didn't really sleep much at all. I think I just took a little bit of a nap, and then just kept laying on the couch for a while, and probably officially woke up, or got up, so to say, at maybe a little after 3 or something, so yeah. So basically I had to be up and am by, I think a little after 3:30, because I think that was like about the time that those of us who live on campus left here for the airport, because we had to be there a little before 4 to obviously have time to like check in and get through security and stuff. So yeah, that was a pretty early morning, but surprisingly the whole security process went by pretty fast. And actually there's a little bit more of a line than I thought there would be at that time of morning, but hey, first time in a while traveling that time, so you never know. Oh, excuse me. Alright, so then after our first of our 2 flights, that first one as said being at 5, we had a little late. Of course, we had a little layover because there's only some destinations that you can fly to internationally out of the airport here. So honestly, we had to have a layover, and that layover was in Miami. I think it was like about maybe 2 to 2.5 hour layover. So we got there. That gave me plenty of time to get myself some sort of food. That was basically my lunch for the day, so yeah. Then after that, just honestly sat in the gate for a while, just ate my food and chilled, played some cards with my fellow classmates and stuff, and then finally got my got on that final flight that was bound for Guatemala City. Yeah, buddy. Alright, so once we got there, we then got escorted to this one bus, which took us to our first place that we stayed at for the first few days in Guatemala, or just in Guatemala City, I should say. It was this one place called CASAS, which stands for Central American Study and Service. Not entirely sure if it's just a thing that's in Guatemala, considering, as I said before, the name of it is Central American Study and Service, so it may be a Central American thing. I'll have to look that up. So basically, what we did for our first part of our trip, it was just mainly like a lot of lectures, mainly about the Mayan culture and history, history of the church in Latin America, and the rise of such things like neo-Pentecostalism and stuff like that. Then also little side field trips here and there to like go right into the doing such things as going to the main capital building of Guatemala City, otherwise known as the I think it's the Royal Palace or whatever. It was just this really fancy building, and it had a lot of cool stuff, and I thought that was pretty awesome. Let's see, then another highlight of that part of the trip was going to this one museum called the Miraflores Museum. Basically just had like all these little exhibits about like the Mayan history and culture, and like something about the animals of Guatemala and stuff like that. So good stuff. All right, so then as also as a part of this first part of the trip, on that first weekend, specifically on Sunday, we went to this one place called Antigua. Now, for those of you who kind of know Guatemala, Antigua is like kind of like the touristy hotspot for Guatemala. Like it has like it's like just like a good spot for shopping because it has this one little market and a bunch of other little touristy shops and also some good restaurants and stuff. So I would have to say that was one of my highlights of the trip right there, going to Antigua. It's quite the quaint little place. I really liked it. Oh, and also, not to mention, also when we were there, we went to this one place that was basically just right in Antigua. It's this one hill that gives you basically an overlook of an entire city of Antigua. This place was called Cerro de la Cruz, which translates to Hill of the Cross. So it's called that because right on the hill, there's just this one. There's this one cross, like like the one for Christianity. So that's why it's called that. And boy, was that view amazing! It just screamed panorama, and I took at least one or two panoramas there. So good stuff. Alright, so moving on to my next part of the trip. The next part of our trip was spent in an area called San Lucas Toliman, and that's I think it was about a 3-hour drive from Guatemala City, so not too bad. Honestly, it wasn't too bad for me because I'm used to longer car rides, with having done some things like doing that long road trip for my vision trip last spring break. So, yeah, that is that. Alright, so for the next part of our trip in San Lucas Toliman, basically what we did there, during the first part of the day, we did some little bits of service work for the mission within the city. So we did such things as, or just some little things like moving some dirt, moving these boulders to make a foundation for this one. That was like the pre-foundation, if you will, for this one building, and then a bunch of other things. Oh, and also, perhaps my most favorite my most favorite part of service, or my most favorite bit of service work there that I can't talk right now, was the initial building of this one stove. So basically, what we just did was we made the clay, which like held these stone blocks together, and that was like the foundation for the stove. So I'd have to say that was a pretty big accomplishment. So yeah, needless to say, that service work that we did was, for the most part, pretty interesting. Also, in addition to that, excuse me again, we also of course spent our class time there. Well, actually, the place where we spent most of our time, like for sleeping and stuff, was this one place that was a few blocks away from the mission in San Lucas called Hotel Emmanuel. So it was a nice little hotel for what it was. It's just 2 floors, few rooms on each of the floors, so not too bad. And I did say the part that took me a little bit getting used to at that hotel was the fact that they had these electric shower heads, which basically that's how they had their water heated up there. So I'll show you a picture of that right now. Yeah, so when I first saw one of those things, I was like, "Wow, what is that thing?" Like it literally, I just didn't know what it was at first because it's just this one shower head, and then there's wires coming out of it, and I was like, "Oh God!" It just like, why? Who ever thought that combining water and wires would be a good idea? I mean, come on now. Well, I guess it's commonplace in like some places there, and then throughout other places in Central and in South America or Latin America as a whole. So, hey, I can't blame them. So yeah, needless to say, it took me a little used to the showers there, but once I did, it wasn't all that bad. Alright, so what else? So yeah, as I said before, that's the place we stayed at, and then also each day there'd be a person that leads the discussion for the readings we had to do for each of the days there. So yeah, that's basically what our class consisted of. Oh, and also at the end of every week for that class, we'd had to do these little journal reflections pertaining to a question or set of questions. So that's basically what the class was. Oh, and then also at the for the last 2 days of the class there, we also had to give these little research presentations. And in case you're wondering, the topic that I did for mine was the environmental issues in Guatemala and kind of Latin America as a whole too, and how it relates to the Christian and Mayan theological beliefs there. So yeah, I just say that was a really interesting project to research. Oh, actually, I forgot to mention some other parts of this trip that were a part of these few weeks that were in San Lucas Toliman, which was like the basically the bulk of the rest of our trip. I forgot to mention that I think yeah, it's the first weekend we were there. We took a little boat ride. Forgot how long it was to this one place in the same region of Guatemala called Santiago Atitlan. It was this, so it's just I believe I think I want to say it was like maybe an hour and a half via boat. So yeah, that was pretty nice. Then also along the way there, we stopped in this one other little village called San Antonio, where they had a little ceramic store, so like bowls and mugs and stuff. Then also this one other store that had authentic Mayan clothing and stuff. So cool stuff. So then after that, obviously, we after that little stop there, we then continued on our way to Santiago Atitlan, and needless to say, that weekend was fun there. When we were there, or the purpose of us being there was we were each of us. I think it was like a group of, or like there was like a grouping of two. It was like me and two of other people because there's just 3 guys in the class. Us and other people divided out into little groups were assigned to families there for a weekend homestay. And as I said before, that was really fun. It wasn't too difficult for me to get used to that situation because a few years ago I had a situation like this in Panama where I stayed with a family, and honestly, with my Spanish being pretty good, as evidenced by that intro of mine, it wasn't too difficult for me. So, needless to say, communication with that family wasn't all that bad. So, yeah. Alright, so in terms of another thing that we did, along with all the stuff for our class and everything, on the final weekend of the class, I believe it was. Hold on, just bear with me here. I just gotta look at the dates. Yes, I think it was the Sunday before this one, so January 25th. So it was that day, we also made a little side journey, and this time we made it to this one place. I think it was an hour and a half outside of San Lucas Toliman. It was just one place called Chichicas Tanago, and that place houses the biggest market in all of Guatemala. And boy, was that place huge. It was huge. But boy, did I love it. And that was a great time for me there because I ended up getting some little gifts for both my brother. Well, I ended up getting something for myself and also something for my brother as well as my mom. So, got some stuff there. In terms of the things I got there, I got a shot glass for myself and Jacob, my brother. Hold on, actually, let me go get it. There it is. Alright, so here is the shot glass I got. As you can see, I believe this is their national bird on it, which is known as the quetzal. And then there's just a bunch of other things. And not sure how we're going to be able to see that. I can kind of see it. It says Guatemala. So that's how you know it was right from Guatemala. Yeah, buddy. Alright, so then in terms of another thing I got there, another thing I got there was, I think it was it? Sorry. Yeah, it was a ceramic mug that I got for my mom. I unfortunately don't have that anymore because I just sent it off. Just sent that box of stuff that I got from Guatemala back home to my parents so they could get that. And they just received it today. So, awesome. Alright, so what else was exciting about that trip? Alright, so then basically to close the trip off, just last Friday we stayed the night in Guatemala City because obviously we had to fly back home the next day. So we stayed at this one place that was literally right by the airport in Guatemala City. It was this one hotel called Casablanca, and interestingly enough, this used to be a family's house, and you could really tell by the looks of it. I mean, just like looking in the rooms alone and stuff, and then some other places, you can definitely tell it was a house, but obviously they've outfitted it a little more to make it like a hotel, so good stuff. And honestly, with that being the last place we stayed at, I would have to say that was really the nicest place we stayed at. The mattresses were really comfy, pillows were nice as well, and the showers were some of the best that we had there. I was so happy to see when we got there it wasn't obviously one of those weird looking electric shower heads, which, as I said before, we had to deal with in our hotel we were in for most of the trip. So yeah, that was pretty awesome. So basically what we did there, we just like chilled for most of the night. They gave us a dinner there, and for dinner there we had like choices of like a few breakfast items or some sandwiches or whatever. I went with pancakes. Those were some good pancakes. And then also, a little after that, actually before dinner, our professor called to order for some pizza to be delivered there. So basically, like a little after dinner, and during our final reflection that night, we got pizza from none other than Guatemalan Pizza Hut. Yeah, buddy. Well, obviously, tastes the same as pizza here, so obviously, what do you expect? It's Pizza Hut. So, regardless, though, it was good. Or in the words of David DeFranco, should I say, bangin'. Yeah. So, honestly, last thing we did there at night, as I said before, was some final reflection. Someone in our group created these awards for certain things, for each person, and the award that I won myself was most talkative. And at first, I was actually kind of surprised about that because I'm usually a little more of an introverted person, but I've been trying to break out of that shell a little bit now. So, yeah, I guess I kind of deserve to earn that reward. So, awesome. Alright, so after all that, basically for the rest of the night, just chilled in the room. My roommates and I there watched Dragon Ball Z on Cartoon Network in Spanish, of course. Well, obviously it was in Spanish because being in Guatemala and all. But basically, my roommate was just obsessing that he was watching Dragon Ball Z there. He was like, oh my god, I can't believe it that I'm watching Dragon Ball Z in Guatemala in Spanish. So yeah, basically, he was like having a little nerdgasm, as I would call it there. So, yeah. So basically, we just did that. Then I also worked on a little bit more of my final reflective paper for the class, and then hit the hay. And honestly, the next morning, we had to leave to go back home. That was a sad day. That was a sad day indeed, because I'm freaking missing Guatemala now. I have been since the day I got back. Alright, so back to talking about that. So, the day we left, which was honestly just this past Saturday, it was another early morning flight. Not nearly as early in the morning as our first of two flights to Guatemala, but still in the early morning regardless. So basically, we just had to be ready before 6 because that was the time we left for the airport. But literally, where our hotel was, it was just a hop, skip, and a jump away from the airport. Not even a minute away, I think. So that was pretty nice. So obviously, when we got there, just had to go through check-in line, do all that check-in stuff, which was done in these little touchscreens, which made the process fast and easy, actually. Then also had to fill out this one little customs form and do mini customs before getting through to the security checkpoint. And it's 8 o'clock, and my computer should be telling me that in a little while. Alright, so back to what I'm saying. So obviously, had to do that, then go through actual security. Then, honestly, after that, we had to find our gate. But at least before I got to the gate, one of the places that I saw right nearby for getting food was McDonald's. I'm loving it. Yeah, so I just got myself a little breakfast of hotcakes and a mocha for there. Obviously, hotcakes, good as usual. The mocha, even better. I don't know what it is about the stuff that they use for their coffee and mochas and stuff for McDonald's outside of the U.S., but man, I really do say it does have a much more authentic taste of an espresso than a mocha does from McDonald's here. Don't get me wrong, the mochas here are good, but I don't know, just something about that mocha from that McDonald's that was really good. So
it's 8 o'clock.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. McIntosh. Alright, so then after that, honestly, just feasted on my breakfast, waited in the gate for our flight, and then honestly, Then honestly, after our group was called to get on, we got onto the plane. And I believe that flight was what was it, like 3 to 4 hours, I think? Yeah, I think it was something like that. And once again, we obviously had a little layover, but this time it was in Dallas or at DFW. So yeah. All right. So once we got to that airport, honestly had to go through customs once we got there because that was our first point of entry back in the U.S. That was a lot quicker than I thought. Actually, I honestly thought it was going to take a long time, but the first part of customs there was um, completely electronic now. So basically, we said to answer some similar questions to the ones we answered on that customs form we were given and stuff. Alright, so I just made another little cut again there quick because another one of my roommates came in. So now let's finish this thing off. Alright, so basically just after doing all that stuff, just obviously sat there, waited for our flight for a while. Then obviously the saddest part of the trip came coming back here. Boy, was that hard to deal with, especially with coming back to this cold. Yeah, so needless to say, as I said before, that was quite a great experience, and I'm gonna honestly remember that for the rest of my life. So yeah. So in terms of how things have been going lately, honestly, just been getting back into classes. That first day back, man, that was just hard, especially since 3 days a week I have a freaking 8 a.m. class. Ugh, just hate that. Alright, so basically just obviously getting back into things, so nothing too exciting going on yet, so yeah. Actually before I say my closing words for this video, I have one more thing to show you. Be right back. Alright, so now I'm back. So you're probably wondering, well, what did I go grab? Yeah, this is what I grabbed. Yep. This is another one of the things that I enjoyed whilst being in Guatemala. As you can see, this is a beer from there. Here the imported name for it is called Famosa, but in Guatemala, it's actually called Gallo, or Rooster. So, this would be a pretty good thing to have, just for the sake of remembering being back in Guatemala again. So, yeah, needless to say, this is just gonna be fun to drink. Yeah. Alright, so I think that's all about it to say, because honestly, not much has gone on back here yet with this just being the first week. So now I'm gonna get this video wrapped up for you guys. So before I go, actually, I'm gonna do all my usual things. If you haven't been following me on Twitter already, my handle on there is @WildandPretzFan, and I'll put a link below for that, as usual, for your convenience. Also, as usual, if you like this video, be sure to show that like button some love. Also, along with that, leave a comment below, just saying whatever you want, all that good stuff. And last but not least, if you haven't done so already, just please subscribe to this channel if you haven't. So, as you may know, this channel, it's been around for the greater part of just a few years now, but it still doesn't have nearly as many subscribers as my other channel. But obviously on YouTube nowadays, it's hard to get a ton of subscribers if you're just a little small channel like me, because the market on YouTube is just so saturated. So yeah, so again, if you just subscribe, if you enjoy this content, that would mean a lot to me. Alright, so now I'm gonna get going, because I really don't have too much else to say, and I don't want to leave you guys hanging here for long. So now all I've got to say is peace.